plus whatever else I might need. It is very good to be here. I want to thank... I want to thank the Attorney General for the good work he does. I know he is aided with great skill by two former Schumer employees who work for you, Elliot Williams, who's been gone for a while, and Brian Fallon, who we miss very much and is doing a good job for you. That's our comment.
Thank you, Senator Schumer.
Okay.
The president, to his credit, agrees that this is a terrible abuse. He called the IRS scandal intolerable and inexcusable, and he called for those guilty of this misconduct to be held accountable. But when your department was asked to step in and investigate, no one has been held accountable for this abuse. In fact, your department installed a political donor of the president's to lead the investigation.
I don't know, but I don't think it's meant.
I mean, that's one of the brilliance of the email system is you go in and you check the sent box and the inbox, and you suddenly have all the emails, correct?
Right. They get taken off and stored in servers, and you've got 90,000 employees, and you've got...
I know, I'm not asking to search. I'm asking to find one. They type in her email address.
We could find, and we in fact are searching, we can find Lois Lerner's emails.
And how long? How long would that take?
I have no idea how long.
Would it take a day?
As I said, I have no idea.
Well, I just don't understand. You got a duly issued subpoena. If you were in the private sector and somebody was issued a subpoena and you didn't comply with it, what would happen to you?
For this subpoena, the court would actually rule that it's far too...
Oh, so you're going to make the determination. You're going to make the...
You asked the question. Let me answer the question. In a court of law, if you provided that subpoena, a judge would not enforce it because...
Wait, now stop right there. So you're going to be the judge.
I'm not being the judge. I'm just telling you what would
happen. Yes, you are.
You asked me...
You have a duly issued subpoena. Are you or are you not going to provide this committee the emails as indicated in this subpoena? Yes or no?
We have never said we wouldn't...
I'm asking you yes or no.
We are going to respond to the subpoena.
No, sir.
Yes, we are going to respond to the subpoena. I'm just telling you, to respond fully to the subpoena, we're going to be at this for years, not months. That's the only thing I'd like to...
And I don't understand that.
Pardon?
Just specific to item 1, Lois Lerner.
Lois Lerner...
Sir, are you or are you not going to provide this committee all of Lois Lerner's emails?
We are already
starting
in the process. Yes, we will do that.
Yes, and then by when? When can we have that?
I can only tell you it's going to take me... My group, I asked this question just to get you the Lois Lerner emails redacted, because you have to get them redacted for examinations, appeals, and the...
No. Is that what the subpoena says?
Would you like to hear the answer to that?
No, I'd like to know if you're going to fully comply with the subpoena. Not your version of the subpoena, the actual subpoena.
You asked me how long it would take to respond to the Lois Lerner emails. I'm explaining to you why it's going to take time just to respond to the categorization.
I don't want you to redact it. I don't want you to take the certain categories that you want. That's not what this duly issued subpoena says.
I'm telling you, just to supply the Lois Lerner emails, which we are going to supply for examinations.
No.
Can I answer the question?
That's no, sir. When it says all emails, why are you qualifying that? Under what authority do you change this subpoena?
I was not qualifying. You were asking how long it was going to take, and I was giving you an example of why it's going to take a long time, because we have to redact out of those emails all of the 6103 information. We're working very hard to get you the Lois Lerner emails. It's going to take us several weeks to get you the Lois Lerner emails for examinations, appeals.
Wait. Why are you getting us for just the... It'd be easier to just give them to us all, right?
I know it'd just take a lot longer because we have to redact the rest of them. They're there. We actually selected those because in a letter from the Ways and Means Committee also saying they need help, they focused on what they're looking for is those categories. So prioritizing, we said we'd provide both
the gentleman
with those categories.
Expired.
We're happy to provide you the rest of them.
I'm yielding back, but this commissioner has no intention of fully complying with this duly issued subpoena.
And here's the real kicker. Lois Lerner, who did this project from the pressure from the president and Democrat senators who did this project, she won't talk to us. She won't talk to us, and our witness today won't give us her emails, even though we subpoenaed them over 6 months ago. That's what, Mr. Chairman, Lois Lerner won't talk to us. She'll talk to the Justice Department because she knows that investigation. She'll talk to the people who can put her in jail, but she won't talk to us. And the guy who can give us the emails won't give us the emails. And here's why today's hearing is so important. The C4 rule that's being proposed, that got 149,000 comments, would codify what Lois Lerner put into practice. Would in fact accomplish the goal that she set out to do in 2010. The C4 rule, we had a hearing 3 weeks ago, Mr. Chairman. We had a hearing 3 weeks ago where we had the ACLU, Tea Party Patriots, the Motorcyclist Association of America, and the Homeschool Legal Defense. All 4 of those groups came to that hearing, and you know what they all said? This rule stinks and should be thrown out. Now think about that. From the ACLU to the Tea Party, from homeschoolers to Harley riders, everyone knows this rule stinks. Everyone knows except the IRS.
The IG, as you know, wasn't aware of the speech at Duke University, in which it was clear that Lois Lerner was saying in pretty plain terms that she was going to act on what the FEC couldn't act on. So this is part of the investigation. It's the reason we've asked for all, and quite frankly, it takes a lot less time to just go through and view these things and say, oh, that's got no 6103, and you just start sending it. And that's what we had hoped for when we issued the subpoenas for all, because these are people, as you know, who have said things before a committee or failed to say things in some cases, in which they become what law enforcement might call a person of interest. And Lois Lerner and Holly Paz and so on, and the other individuals are people of interest because of their possible role.
So in other words, any email with anybody talking to their daughter, if there's any relevance whatsoever, if they say, I just don't like Democrats, I mean, and say that was in any way you could connect that with an investigation, and they're talking to their daughter.
No, I appreciate that. But
I'm just trying to make sure I
But I
understand
just
that.
want to make sure the context.
Yeah.
These are government emails from a government account, back in and out. This is the use of IRS assets to communicate. We would presume that the majority of it is not shopping online. As a matter of fact, in the case of Lois Lerner, she did her shopping online in a Hotmail account, which she also did 6103 material on. So, you know, in a normal case, this would not be something you'd look through, but we and the Department of Justice, if they're actually doing the investigation they claim to, we have an obligation to look and figure out whether we can opt out these communications, which in this case were always the product of the government, always available. And as you know, it is a given that communication on government computers is in fact open to government review.
I just wanted to make sure the public understands that.
Thank you. Mr. Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say to the ranking member, sounds like his understanding is correct. And I would hope we do the same with, I don't know, the IG, Mr. Russell George. I'd like to see all of his overt partisan political emails. I'd like to see if he's emailed relatives, if he's emailed staff members of this committee. I think that would be relevant to putting in context his findings.
Mr. President, the Republican leader. The world is learning of the profound challenge confronting our nation as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant sweeps across Iraq. We hear the names of former battlefields in Iraq and remember the hard-fought gains in places like Fallujah and Ramadi. And just as many Americans hadn't heard of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula before a terrorist attempted to detonate an explosive device on an airliner over Detroit in 2009, they are now learning of ISIL, a vicious terrorist organization that operates across portions of Syria and Iraq. Like AQAP, ISIL consists of an insurgency that threatens stability in the region where it trains and fights, and that presents a terrorist threat to the United States. The Iraqi security forces that cowered in the face of ISIL advances are now less capable than when the President withdrew the entirety of our force without successfully negotiating a capable remaining U.S. presence. Such a force would have preserved the gains made on the ground by mentoring our partners and assisting with command and control and intelligence sharing. Now, we must grapple with how best to help Iraq meet this threat. ISIL is a lethal, violent terrorist force, and its activities in Syria and Iraq represent a grave threat to U.S. interests. The administration must act quickly to provide assistance to the Maliki government before every gain made by the U.S. and allied troops is lost, and before ISIL expands its sanctuary from which it can eventually threaten the United States. Now, several weeks ago, the President spoke at West Point. In that speech, he vaguely described a new counterterrorism strategy that he said, quote, matches this diffuse threat, end quote, by expanding our reach without sending forces that stretch our military too thin or that stir up local resentments. And he said that we need partners to fight terrorists alongside us. So the President must quickly provide us with a strategy and a plan that address the threat posed by the insurgency and the terrorist capabilities of ISIL. And he must explain that new strategy. Now, on a different matter, Mr. President, when the IRS targeting of conservative groups came to light after the last presidential election, just about everyone denounced the agency's Nixonian tactics. Members of both parties, from the president on down, called it outrageous and inexcusable, and just about everyone agreed that no stone should be left unturned in figuring out how it happened in the first place. Well, that was more than a year ago, and despite the president's assurances that he was just as mad as everybody else, his administration has been anything but cooperative in the time that's elapsed since then. Instead of working with Congress to get to the bottom of what happened, the president's allies actually went in the opposite direction. They tried to slip a regulation by the American people that would have effectively enshrined the IRS speech suppression tactics, the kind of tactics at the center of the IRS scandal, as a permanent agency practice. It was a brazen move on the administration's part. And administration officials only backed down after Americans literally rose up and demanded that the IRS get out of the speech suppression business for good. Even some of our friends on the pro-First Amendment left, a dwindling constituency in recent years, joined us in condemning it. But I doubt we've seen the last of the administration's anti-free speech efforts. We've seen a revival in recent weeks of a radical, truly radical proposal to change the First Amendment. And when it comes to the IRS scandal, it's now quite obvious that we haven't seen the last of the administration stalling either. The latest claim by the IRS is that somehow it lost a full 2 years worth of emails from the woman in charge of the IRS department at the center of the scandal. They lost 2 years worth of emails. But Congress submitted a request for these emails over a year ago. And they're suddenly telling us now? The committees investigating the scandal need those emails in order to figure out who knew what and when, and to determine whether any coordination was going on between the IRS and anyone outside the agency. So I'll be interested to see what the IRS commissioner has to say about all this when he testifies next week. But please, let's just skip past the dog ate my homework excuses buried in a late Friday news dump. The president promised to work hand in hand with Congress on this matter. So his administration needs to live up to that promise immediately.